Let's go to start off with Inside Scoop. Part of it is because of Lonnie. Part of it is if you go back to our podcast last on January 11th, the title was Hiding Behind Health. And hiding behind health, what did we talk about there? What we talked about is why we were surprised that Goff wasn't the starter for that wild card matchup. Look, my evidence was Jared Goff dislocated his thumb and fractured it in week 16, played the entire fourth quarter without tape or a splint, then had surgery with 3 pins, making it more stable. And I thought there would be no question he would be the wild card starter versus the Seahawks. He's the starter. And I was wrong. And people gave me crap for it. Now, what I've said all along, and is that there was more to it. The non-benching in the end, I think, turned out to be a benching, obviously. At the time, they said, well, it was his thumb, it was his thumb. And this is why I say hiding behind health. Like, not only hiding health and injuries, but sometimes there's more to the story, and the public story isn't necessarily the real story. So the public story is it was the thumb, and he wasn't benched, but they needed certainty on Tuesday for the team. And why I also knew that Jared Goff was fine and healthy. Think about this, Lon. Would you ever go into any regular season game, much less a playoff game, with 1.5 quarterbacks? Blake Bortles wasn't active for that Seattle game, which told me that they had confidence in Goff's thumb, right? Because if Wolford takes a hit and you're not sure about Goff, are you going Denver Broncos without a quarterback the rest of the way? No, you have to make room for Blake Bortles. Now, the only position that I know, football that has no real backup ever is the long snapper, right? Yeah. I mean, even the kicker punts and the punter kicks and, a little bit, right? No, there usually is somebody, a linebacker, a lineman or something, obviously. I'm joking about that. Lonnie, one of the great long snappers here. But my point is Goff they didn't have Bortles, so his thumb was fine. And he did indeed play 3.5 quarters. And at the time I said, in the Hiding Behind Health podcast that following Monday, I think there's more to this story. This doesn't make sense. Yeah. Look, Tom Brady, before the AFC Championship game 2 years ago, I think, or 3, I forget, Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. Remember, he ripped his thumb open with the dislocation in skin and all that tape and all that. There was never a question he wasn't going to start if he could get on the field, even if he wasn't 100%. Right. In these playoffs, Phillip Rivers had a bad toe, but there was no question Jacoby Brissett was going to be, take his place. Sure, 3rd and 2, he was going to come in, but so what that told me is instead of being Jared Goff here and John Wolford here, it was either John Wolford here and Goff here, or perhaps Goff here and Wolford here. Right. The bottom line is they were closer. Yeah. And that little bit of injury stuff was enough to tip it, and now we have this big trade. Pretty clearly, Goff fell out of favor. And as wrong as I was, and I don't delete tweets, I was wrong. I said he would start for sure. Now, I was right in saying the game's going to be decided with Goff in the game, and that turned out true. But yeah, I was wrong. He didn't start. But I can't be on the inside of the brains, but this is really, literally, I think, what happened. Yeah. And it's obvious now that and if you look closely at his thumb, look, is that big of a deal? There's not even a big splint on it. I mean, he could play, obviously. And so this non-benching, as we talk about, and I wrote about an outkick here, really was a benching, if you really look at everything that's happening.
I mean, it gives the coaches an easy opportunity to make a little move like that, I mean,
hiding behind health.
Right.
I mean,
it happens in various positions,
Chargers this year, Tyrod Taylor. He's the starter. As soon as the puncture, he's fine. He's the starter.
Yep.
And then it was, his lung's not quite ready. It's not quite ready. It's not quite ready. And all of a sudden it changes. And obviously Justin Herbert's the starter. So it happens all the time. I'm not hating on McVay or anybody, but this is part of it. That's why I said hiding behind health, hiding behind injuries. Look, by saying Tyrod Taylor's the starter, it gave him Justin Herbert a chance to prove himself and go back to Tyrod Taylor, no harm, no foul. And they probably bought a couple extra weeks, because if that were the unquestioned starter, I think Tyrod Taylor plays in 2 weeks. Instead, they declared him out for 4/6 weeks before Herbert was a starter, hiding behind health. And let me run this idea by you, Lonnie. I think there's more to it for Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? Former Patriot quarterback. You didn't cross paths with him.
Know him well, though.
Know him well.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay? So here's my thought and theory. I think Jimmy's a tough guy. I think he's able to play and is a tough guy. But forget the rumors that the 49ers put in a bid for Matthew Stafford. Okay, a lot of teams do that, okay?
Right.
But think about this. Think about hiding behind health. Jimmy Garoppolo was injured week 2. First quarter, I still remember it. We were in this room, saw it, and said, oh, that's a high ankle. Hopefully it doesn't, that could be a problem. He stayed in the game. Said, hope it doesn't get tight on him. Halftime, he left the game. This was week 2. Week 5, he returned for the 49ers. Didn't finish the game. Didn't play that well. Perhaps rushed it a week. Week 6 and week 7, he played fine. Greater than 250 yards on that ankle. Week 8 against the Seahawks, re-injured the ankle. Didn't really take that big of a hit by video, and was said to be out 4 to 6 weeks, no surgery. This is week 8. And he disappeared. And look, I get it, the 49ers were out of it by 6 weeks left, whatever, but remember, when they were essentially out of it, they brought back George Kittle from the cuboid fracture, and there were updates about Kittle, but Garoppolo was just forgotten. Is there hiding behind health there? Look, I don't think the first time he missed 3 weeks, call it 4 because the week 5 didn't count. The next time he disappeared for 9 weeks because of the bye too.
Right.
And there wasn't a word about him. Now, is this related to contract where I think he can get out of the 49ers can get out, but if he were hurt, he'd be guaranteed for the amount. I don't know.
Yeah.
But mark my words here, there's more to Jimmy G here than anything, right?
You best believe it. You
Yep.
best believe it.
And I'm not asking you to break news on your friend or whatever,
No.
but, right? This is another example of hiding behind health.
It happens all around the league. I mean, especially in those situations where it's, a high value contract or coming up where they see something in the market that they could maybe swap or not. I mean, it has, he's the greatest guy on earth, but, as a business, they maybe leverage these things a little bit more than they should, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and if anything, it gives you room, right? So in case things don't work out, no, we loved Goff all the time, all along. We loved Garoppolo all along, and it allows you to go backwards, right? It gives you the excuse, it saves face, and unfortunately, that's how business is done.
Yes, right.
So hiding behind health, I think there's more to Garoppolo's, less to his high ankle injury than perhaps him falling out of favor in San Francisco. Just a theory. Anyways, and then Lonnie will break the news to us from his back. Just kidding.
You never know. He might go back to New England. I mean, there's been tossed around rumors there. And, we'll see. I mean, he's a fan favorite out there. Not to say that is or isn't happening, but there's a lot of pivoting at that position in this offseason.
No question.
Right.
Throughout the league. I mean,
retirement or contracts or injuries or trades. I mean, it's you can see it already developing.
I mean, you remember back when there was Tom Brady rumors to San Francisco.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So not saying that everything is true, and I know very well that there are a lot of phone calls made and people explore, for example, as every GM's job is to look at all options, right, and see what's out there, right, and make a lot of phone calls and do a lot of things, and